Hello, beautiful creative people. This is Kiala Givehand from givinghands.ning.com and also givinghandscreative.blogspot.com. I'm here at week 3 of Book in a Day 2013. I'm excited to be at week 3. I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but oftentimes we start something in the new year and before the month of January is over, we've already fallen off the wagon. So I'm excited to say I'm still on the wagon and I'm still making books. So I'm happy that you've joined me. I also want to say a huge thank you to all of you who've started subscribing to the YouTube channel and the many people who have joined me over on the givinghands.ning site. Several of you have found your way to the Book in a Day group, and I'm excited about that. I actually am working on a structure today that is different from any of the other structures I've done so far. This one is a sewn structure. It's called a do-sa-do, and I guess it depends on where you're from, how you pronounce that. I'm sure there's a less southern way to pronounce it, but that's how I say it. So I'm excited to show this structure today. I think it'll be a quick video just because I'm going to go over the materials and then I'm going to show you the folding, and then we're going to sew the book together and take a look at it. So the reason I'm doing this particular book today, I am a part of the wildsoulsart.ning site over with Effie Wild, and I am going to be in the very first 2013 swap that they're doing. It's not really a swap, it's a journal exchange. And so one of the things you can do is create your own 16-page journal that you want to use for the swap, for the exchange. So they give you a bunch of things you could either buy or make your own, and I thought, oh, this would be a really good one. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that once the book is done, but that's my thinking, is I'm keeping it blank so that it will be the book I use for the Wild Souls Art Journal Exchange, and which I'm super excited about. This will actually be my first art journal exchange. I've done other exchanges, chapbook exchanges with Ducey Collective, but this is going to be the first art journal exchange, so I am really excited about that. So if you're watching and you're part of that exchange, be on the lookout for this book in your mail because you might get to add your journal images to it. So, all right, so let's look at the materials that I'm going to be using today. Obviously, I'm going to start with an awl, and this is just a very thin, it's like a needle at the end of a stick, and they come in different sizes. I have all different sizes. This is a very thin one, so it's going to make a small hole, which I prefer. I do have others that are bigger and wider, like this one has this sort of graduated needle point, and I like it for certain types of paper. Really thick papers, it works well, but for papers that are thin, you don't really need. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see this sort of, see how it starts off really small, large, and then it gets smaller at the tip. So you could poke your hole too far and it would be too wide for the thread or for whatever project you're using. So this one I only use for certain things because it does tend to be a little too thick. So the one I'm using today is a very thin, I don't know if you can see that, but I hope you can, a very thin awl. Okay, and then my handy dandy trusty X-Acto knife. I'll be using that. My Teflon bone folder. And then just paper. I have a variety of papers that I'm using today, so I'll just go through those. I'm starting with, I have 8 sheets that get folded, so 8 sheets of You guessed it, Canson, my favorite. They really are my favorite paper. I don't know how that happened, but they are. I find it very easy to use. It's inexpensive. It's really good quality. So this mixed media paper, I really like. It comes in a pad. And I'll show you the pad. It comes in this wire-bound pad, and it has about, I don't know, 60 sheets or so in it. They're 9 by 12 and a half. Or, I'm sorry, 9 by 12. And it can take watercolor, acrylic, pen, pencil, and I like that about it, that it has, yeah, it's acid-free. I like that. And it's perforated, so when you can tear the sheets out without having this frayed edge. So I really like this. It's my go-to paper. And I figured this will be a good paper to use for an exchange because most people doing art journaling are going to be using mixed media. So I thought that was good. So this is just that paper folded in half, and I have 8 sheets of this. So 4 and then another 4. And then the cover of this book is going to be Fabriano paper, which I love also. It's a little more expensive, but the quality is so great that it makes it worth it. And this one is 18 3/4 by 9 1/4. And it is the 140-pound hot pressed. It folds really nicely if you score it first. If you don't score it, it can crack a little bit, but either way, it's still pretty good paper. It stands up to a lot of liquid and water and mixed media, so I like it. Plus the hot pressed is very smooth. It has a really smooth surface, so I like that. So this will be the cover of the book. Okay, so we're gonna start with the large. I'm gonna start with the large do-si-do. So again, there are 2 signatures. Each has 4 sheets of paper, which once folded create 8 sheets. And then we have our cover, which I've scored and folded. So the scoring happens I use the scoring board to score this, and because this is longer than my scoring board, but it worked out because the measurements are 12, and so I was able to, basically I scored at 6.5, and then I folded it and scored at 6.5 a second time. Okay, so both scores happen at 6.5, and then that's where we fold. And then once that's folded, the next thing is to create a sewing guide. I usually call this a punching guide. Sewing guide, punching guide. Basically, you take one signature of the paper that's going to be inside the book, and then you want to just mark what I do. And I'm sure there is a very specific way to do this, but here's what I do. I set my ruler there. I'm going to come 1 inch in on both sides, and then I'm going to find I'm going to eyeball it to see what looks like the center of the page. I could measure this, obviously. I know it's 9 inches, so I could totally measure that and go at my 4.5 mark. And then I just sort of eyeball what's in between the center and the mark that I just made. So I do another little mark at the center between those two. And if I can keep my ruler still, I do the same thing on the other end. I look at the center and the left-hand mark, and I just make a little notch right where I think it is. Now what I could do is look at where I've made this notch and just make that same mark on the other side. So it would be roughly here, give or take. Okay, so then I have 5 holes, or 5 marks where I will make my holes. All right, so then I take, I put that sheet back inside the signature that it belongs to. Actually, what I'm going to do, just to keep it simple, I'm going to take that guide And I'm going to go ahead and take the sheet from my other set of signatures, and I'm going to line them up and just make my marks at the same spot, just to make my life a little simpler. Okay, so same place that I have these marks, I'm going to make. All right, so that's for the other signature, which we will get to in a second. Okay, so once you have your marks made where you're going to punch your holes, then you're going to pop that in, make sure everything's nice and tight. And I am going to use a clip for this part, just because it makes it easier. Okay, so I'm going to use clips for these parts. So once I have this all together, I'm going to grab my cover. I'm going to nest. And now I have sort of made some, I'm really looking at this, again, I'm eyeballing it, kind of the way I cook. I sort of eyeball, how much salt do I put in? Oh, just eyeball it. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. I am giving myself about 1/8 of an inch on each from the top and the bottom, centering those pages right along that area so it's not flush. These signatures are not flush with the top and bottom of my cover. They're about an eighth of an inch in on both sides. Alright, so then I just line that up, and I'm going to use my clips to help me out here so that my paper doesn't slide around as I'm sewing. I'm just going to clip those, clip one here and one here. Then I'm going to take so I have 2 colors of thread for this one. I have a purple and a green. I don't know, green makes me think of prosperity. And purple makes me think of royalty. So I like those 2 colors together. So I'm going to take this and pop it into my needle, if I can find it. I'll be right back. Oh, here's the needle. Okay. So I'm going to pop this thread into the needle. I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail at the end of it. And of course I need to punch my holes, so let's pause and do that. So I'm going to take my awl, and where I've made these 5 marks, I'm going to line this up, and I'm going to punch my holes right in the center, pushing pretty firmly to make sure it goes through all those sheets plus the cover. Be careful where your fingers to the opposite hand are as you're doing this so that you don't stick yourself, because this awl is like a needle. It's very sharp. Alright, so now I have my holes. I'm just going to go back through them because my cover is pretty thick, so I just want to make sure my needle can get through without any trouble. Alright, so on a 5-hole sewing, you're basically making a figure 8. So I'm going to fast forward through the sewing. That way you can just kind of see how the sewing, hopefully you can see this on camera. I don't know if I have it at a good angle or not. But I am going to start at the center. And again, I want my tail on the inside, so I'm going to start at the center, pull through. Alright, and because my thumb can't reach over there and hold this down, I'm going to take a tiny piece of masking tape, just a tiny piece. And you have to be careful because artist tape is probably better. Yeah, let's get artist tape. Because artist tape comes up really well. It doesn't stick as, now depending on the paper, of course, depending on the paper. So I'm just gonna do that to keep my thread from coming through. All right, so I'm gonna turn to this side so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. So I'm gonna come through the next one. And now this one. And come back in. Here. I'm just tightening these up. Okay, so you have one signature sewn in. So the beauty of the do-si-do is you have this one signature sewn in, and when it opens, you have your cover, and then it opens, and you have your sheets, right? Your 8, which end up, or your 4 sheets, which make 8 leaves, right? Then you have your back cover, and then when you flip that closed, you have an entirely new section where our second signature will go. Both sides are sewn. We have our purple side and we have our green side. So if you flip this open and you just kind of leaf through it, and again it's blank, it's a blank book, but you could totally use this structure to bind pages that you've done. Maybe you've created art journal pages that can be divided in half in this way, in this manner, or that you're okay having a center thread going down the center. But you can totally use this binding for either. But what I really love about this, I'm going to stand it up and zoom out a little bit. What I really love about this is this effect, right? There's a book here, and then there's a book here. And I think one of the things that made me think of this book this morning is this is January, right? And in January, most of us are having this moment where we are looking at the past and thinking, okay, what did I do last year that I definitely don't want to do again? What things did I do that I want to keep doing? And what new things do I want to bring into my life, right? So we're looking at our past, which makes me think of one side of this book. And then we're also looking at, this is a new year, new opportunity, new chances for new things. And so we're looking also to our future. So this book is, to me, feels like it does that. It allows for that sort of reflective moment. To use this blank book for the art journal exchange that I'm doing with Wild Soul Arts. I'm excited about it. It starts on February 1st, so I'll be creating, I think the way it works is we mail each other our books, and people include their art journaling, and we do an art journal page, and then we send it in. We keep it for maybe a week or 2 weeks, and then we mail it to the next person on the list. So I'm super excited to be a part of it. I'm excited about that. So again, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing to the YouTube channel. And a huge, huge thank you to folks who are signing up for the Book in a Day group on the Ning site, givinghands.ning.com. I'm so looking forward to seeing people's work, whether you're creating the exact same books as I'm creating or not. Maybe you're creating your own structures, or you're doing something different, but you too are creating a book in a day. I am excited to see what folks are creating. So I will have everything up on the Ning site probably, by the time you see this video, everything will be on the Ning site. I'll blog a little bit about this. I'll post some photos of it. I also did a small version of this that I'm going to use for myself, because it's like a travel size. I can take it, pop it in my purse, take it with me, and do a little art journaling. I might make a little envelope enclosure for this or something. I haven't decided yet, but again, past, present, future, this book is perfect for that kind of I don't know, journaling or art journaling or writing, poetry, whatever it is you do. So I look forward to seeing you over at the Ning site, and thank you again for watching and subscribing. See you next week.